Life. Well, hello, Kevin. We're live.
Hey, we are live here and we're chugging through July already. Man, time is just flying by.
I know. I don't want summer to be over. Trying to get as
Yeah,
many beach days as possible.
absolutely.
So, welcome back to Dummy's Guide to Excuses. We have a really good topic today. I'm Jimmy Allen, your love and relationship coach, and we have here.
I'm Kevin Reeves and I'm a leadership coach and really excited to talk to you guys today about Dummy's Guide to Excuses, when should becomes the thing. Or did we come up with a different title? I don't even know.
No, that's fine. Like we were saying, trying too hard and shoulds. If they kind of coexist.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting topic with the shoulds. I think we, talked about it before, but when you're in that moment, and especially with relationships, I have a few of my clients are dating, and he was giving an example in my own dating situation too, when someone says, well, you should be doing this, we should be like this, and very proud of someone standing up, taking a stance for their love life, is saying, well, I'm saying, in my situation, no, I shouldn't be like this. This is how I am. There's many colors of who I am and my personality. I don't need to respond this way. I'm responding in the moment, how I'm responding in the moment. Like there is no map. There is no rigid way. I don't want rigid love. I want love that's flowing, juicy, and effervescent, and when shoulds start to come into play, I find that I get very resistant, very strict. Now I have to fit into this box. There's no room to play, and it restricts love, and it restricts love.
Right. Right. And it's really interesting that you said that, because I think, a lot of times we put this, we take this should thing and there's this, no, I shouldn't be that way. I should, push back and forth. And not to say that maybe a suggestion of someone saying like, oh, you should be like this isn't right. But there's not a predetermined, this is how I need to be. There's more of a conversation in there that can happen. And a lot of these things, a lot of these emotions are really triggered by this. And we'll talk about this more at the end with the solutions, but just really the idea that there are there's two emotions that we really get to play with. And it's like this scale, like one of those old school scales that balances, and it's fear and love. Those are the two emotions that are triggered, and a lot of times the motivator for these decisions that we're making, or these feelings or these emotions that we're putting on ourselves or putting on others. And so we'll talk about that more at the end. But it's really interesting to see those things just jump right out at you.
Right. And, and I really love what you were saying earlier, how when those things come into play, for me, I know we start to adjust, and sort of automatic, like sometimes I don't intend to adjust to the shoulds, but then like I'm trying too hard to please the person. Now I'm being something that I don't want to be. I'm being something that doesn't really feel good. And sometimes it happens at work too, when I should be a certain way, when there's so many rules and things that are at play, it can really bring your level of authenticity down. And part of like me being a relationship coach is like really pulling those things out, finding those inauthentic ways so you can be more loving, so you can be freer to love and expand and who you are as a person, and know that you're not like what you said earlier, you're no fixed thing. And it's really important to like, and I find in friendships, and especially within loving relationships, and also in the book Pocket Full of Money, he talks about how be careful of having a fixed mindset, because fixed mindset will keep you from looking or finding the opportunities to make more money, to see the opportunities, because there is no one way to get money. There is no one way to express love. There is no one way. There's so many multiple ways, and to be open to new experiences and removing those blocks really expand ourselves so exponentially that it just, for me, it's much more fulfilling to figure out those blocks and expand more in love so I can have a more fulfilling and juicier life.
Right. Well, it really goes back into those motivations and those questions, those things we take for granted and just like slap on like, oh, this is fact. This is fact. And, it could be like, I should feed my kids lunch. Well, what if I didn't? And that sounds like a terrible question to ask. Like, of course you should feed your kids lunch. That's a terrible dad, that kind of thing. But what if I didn't? What if we instead like went for a walk with like a really crazy fun snack, and that like, or we walked over to this, this little like, restaurant or whatever and got a special treat, or, went and did something fun like that. And that wasn't like feeding them lunch. It wasn't making them lunch. Oh gosh, I gotta get the peanut butter and jelly out again. This is so boring. I hate making lunch for my kids. I wish I was doing something fun. But just, what if I just did something different? What if we played an adventure game and we like packed food and we like pretend like we were camping or in the jungle, or I mean, like we could make this so much more fun than it just, I have to make my kids lunch. This is so boring. I hate my life. But we do that and just like throw that in there of, this is how things are. This is my only option. I don't have a choice in this. And there's so much more, like you were saying when you were talking about that, and you were saying there's no one way to do a lot of things. Right. It's so fun. Like there's so much fun that we miss out on when we're just tied to this. This is the one option I have, and I should do this. It's very narrow focused. And so just a great question to ask yourself is, when you say I should do this, like, well, do I have to? Should I really? Those are good questions to kind of throw in there. Or what's an alternative? What could I do differently? Just mixing it up.
Right. And when last year, I got into a very shoulding myself frenzy. And my coach just said, well, what if we change the language to, I get to, instead of I should, I get to have made lunch for my kids, which gets it, like I'm making the decision, not like I'm obligated to do it. And I get to be fun and adventurous by doing lunch. So, giving them an option, hey, like you want to go to the jungle or go spaceship, kind of like, I think you're giving yourself option. And like I was saying to you earlier, offset, like what Oprah would do is finding that ounce of truth of why you're doing what you're doing. I get to spend time with my kids in this moment, fixing them lunch, nourishing their body, seeing them smile and happy because they love my food. Like I get to make I'll rephrase this. I get to make a sandwich and give them love, put my love into making a meal for them and seeing how happy they are when they eat my food. I get to spend time with my kids or make it an adventure. We all get to participate in this moment and making it an adventure. And like what you said, like go to the park. Like this is not some, breaking up the monotonous routine, because sometimes the shoulds come in because we're in a routine every single day. Like, well, this is how we always do it. Well, okay, what if we did something different? We get to be adventurous and curious, and what you said earlier, and engaging and empathetic in this moment. What would that look like? What would that actually look like if we were being curious and empathetic and adventurous in this moment? Like, what would that be like? And like giving us space to create together what sort of brings us together. We're creating a co-created partnership in the relationship.
Right. Well, and like trying too hard. I mean, the same thing we've been talking about here, of like the idea of trying too hard. It's really, you think about it like in a dating relationship, you have those people who are single and they just like all they can think about was, well, when I get in this relationship, when I get in my next relationship, when I get married, it's all about like, that's their whole purpose in life. That's their whole self-worth. If they don't get that, they're a failure. If they do get that, they win. And so there's like this obsession, and you've seen it and you've heard it and you've witnessed it. Maybe you've even experienced it yourself. But when you're like so hungry for a relationship that it kind of pushes everybody away, and it's like as soon as you like sit down and shut up, you kind of like all of a sudden this like amazing person walks into your life. You're like, oh, because you didn't have the ability to take yourself out of that, and you're trying so hard, and everybody outside of that can look at them and go, oh my gosh, this person's so like stupid with like trying to find love, because it's so repulsive, how they're showing up. And it's because there's like there's a great fear that's motivating that, right? It's a fear of being alone. It's a fear of being single. It's a fear of not being valued or loved. And when you're coming at a relationship from love, like I really am just like I love myself. I love who I am, and I'm really excited to share that with someone in a really cool way. That's a totally different space to approach a relationship from, rather than out of this like fear, anxiety. It's the same thing with a job. You're in a job interview and you just are desperate for a job. I just need to pay my bills, versus I really think I could help your company. I really think I can be the best person for this role to really, take things the direction that the company's looking at going. Totally different feeling, right? There's a level of confidence that goes with it.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, like you're saying, because I'm discovering it for myself, like dating this new person in my life, like I realized, oh, like as you said, that's, oh, I'm not in that desperate space, because normally when I'm in that space, I'm firing off these questions. I want to know this right now, so I don't waste my time. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just like in this place of being curious and engaging and being confident. And he's saying all those things to me. I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be in a confident, secure place with myself. And I'm learning to come from that very open, exploratory, and curious place. And it's right what you're saying. And sometimes we don't even realize that when we're coming from that desperate place, it really changes your entire being inside and out. And you don't realize how you start to self-sabotage your relationships on these job interviews, because they can smell that desperation, because you're not asking the questions that say, well, I belong here and you deserve me and I deserve to be here.
Right.
It's like, I need it. What are you paying? Like getting to the quick, well, what are you paying? And people smell it right away with this, because that's what people ask, the same exact questions over and over and over again. And you're not coming from a confident and engaging and curious place.
Yeah. Well, it's also very self-centered. You're really when you're desperate, you're focusing on yourself. And when you're not, when you're operating from that place of curiosity and confidence, it's so much more about other people. You're like really inviting people into that circle. And, so whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job interview, you're there for the bigger picture. Yes, you get something out of it, but it's a mutual thing versus desperation, which is just so me-driven, fear-driven. I want this status, I want this money, I want this relationship, I want this thing, right? So I think that's a good distinction there.
Right, and this is the reason why we do these things, like why you hire a coach, because sometimes people use this excuse to, well, that's just the way I am. Which is like, no, you're choosing to be that way. And there is another way. You do not have to agree that's just the way you are.
Yeah.
And that's why you hire a coach, to pull those things out, to point at those things and say, hey, how is it sabotaging your life? How is it showing up? Is it serving you? There is another way that you can be your most powerful, loving, and beautiful, and confident self, so you can have the job you want, so you can have the life you want, so you can be the leader that you want in your career, your job, your life, or even your family. There is an alternative way, and that's why we're coaches, because coaching takes what's in the way out of the way, so you can be at your best game, live your best life.
Absolutely. And it's really so helpful because you really get that kind of like rear view mirror look. It's like you can only see, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, great, everything looks fine. But, open up that rear view mirror and you can see what's behind you, and you can see, oh, I've got something on the back of my leg and I didn't notice that. And you can start seeing some other stuff because this coach is kind of there like spotting you. I've been using that analogy a little bit with, you think about weightlifting. Yeah, and you're like lifting something really heavy. You need someone who's kind of walking with you, kind of like making sure you don't hurt yourself, and there to assist you, to do something that is helping you and moving you forward with your progress. And so, as we kind of like look at this idea of should and trying too hard, really the question we ask ourselves, this is kind of like more the solutions, but where's the motivation coming from? Is it love or is it fear? And when you think of, a coach helping you, it really is that kind of that love mentality. It's they're there in this relationship with you, loving you, essentially. I mean, when I first did my training to become a coach, one of my instructors said, we get to change the world by loving our clients one person at a time. And I thought it was such a cool thing. It really stuck with me of like, yeah, seriously, like all that I'm doing is in service and in loving this person who's sitting in front of me. And that is like such a powerful, it's such an honor to be able to do that for someone else. And so, that's really like the motivation. But when you're bringing that into a coaching relationship, it can make all the difference.
I really love that. Just you're loving on loving each person, one person at a time. And you're, as a coach, you're holding space so they can be their best selves. And like, for me, I get very emotional when when my client is taking a stance for his love life. Like, this is what I want. That's like very moving for me, because I know in those moments he's just up-leveled himself, or she just up-leveled herself. And now things are starting to move because they are now no longer saying yes to things that doesn't serve them. They're now aware they're stepping into what they're calling in for themselves and who they need to be for love. No, this is what I deserve. Because so many people reside into, well, I guess this is what I like. I guess this is what I deserve, the latter thing. It's like, no, you deserve a happy, juicy love life. And let's get you there. And I'm here to hold the space for you. So, and help you and teach you the skills and give you the tools so you can create this and go out into the world and call in that person, or be the best at that job, or get the job or the career or whatever it is that you want. And that's why we do these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts as far as like any other tactics or tricks or anything like that to kind of take away that should? We've talked about hiring a coach. We've talked about like really looking at like the motivation and kind of the spirit behind it. Fear or love. What else could you do?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's just for me when I start to hear myself say should, I have to pause. Like, why am I shooting myself? Like, and where is this coming from? Why do I feel like I have obligation? Like, taking a pause, a moment, because all of a sudden I've made an unconscious decision that I'm not even aware of.
Right.
So like, oh, okay, I feel obligated because I did this and that from this person. But still, in this moment, I still have a choice. I can choose to do this or not do this. And if I'm going to do this, I have to find some level of truth, like why of love. Why am I going to do this? Otherwise, I can't find an ounce of truth of love of the person or thing that I'm doing it. Then I'm not going to do it. I have to say no, because I want to protect my authenticity. Otherwise, if I'm doing the thing out of obligation, no matter how much I try, and for me, I'm going to be resentful, and I'm not going to show up as my best self. And that is my commitment for myself and my clients, is to like always practice myself to be my best self, no matter what, even if the moments are hard, still getting back to that. Am I doing this out of love and fear?
Right. I think that's a great spot. And honestly, it's a great little tactic to do, is just to really get conscious about when we're saying the word should. Because should isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because like we said, if it's coming from love, that's great. But just the other day, I had a situation where a situation came up. I was like, I don't really want to do this thing. Why am I doing this? This is so dumb. And I felt bad about like getting out of it. And I thought, why is it such a big deal? I'm like, it doesn't take that much more effort to do what I'm doing. And I really like what I get to give to this other person. And so it was like a really cool thing to be able to it felt heavy. And when I broke it down, I'm like, it really isn't that heavy. It's kind of stupid that I'm even thinking about this. But I was able to make that choice consciously and decide to continue doing this thing that I was like, not really like excited about, because I was like, I really love that I get to give this gift to this person and really like support them and really like just, kind of develop that relationship. And so it was really cool, like just to be able to consciously make that choice versus just like kind of going through the motions. I'm doing this thing, whatever. And we all do that from time to time, right? We always, we say that. And so, but it was just kind of me flagging that and saying, hey, wait, why am I doing this? I hate this. I don't want to do this. Wait, actually, I don't hate this. This isn't that big a deal. It was just kind of like figuring that out. And so I think that's a really great spot that you threw that out there, Jimmy.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad I did. So any final thoughts from you other than what you just said? That's one of your final. Is that your final thought, Kevin?
No, I think it's just one of those things is like, really figure out what you want, because there's so many of us just going through the motions of life, right? So many things we feel like so unable to change. And we really have a lot more power than we realize. We have coaches out there that can help us. We have questions that we can ask ourselves. We can, question, the spirit of where our thoughts are coming from. Is it out of fear or love? But what is it that's going to get you to that next step and that next phase in whatever situation you're in? Maybe it's your landlord situation. Maybe it's a job. I mean, there's a million different things that we feel like I'm trapped. I can't change. And so, just really look at what your options are. And if you're interested in talking to either Jimmy or I, just, hit us up with a question, find us on Facebook. Just please reach out because we'd love to, even if we're not the coach for you, we'd love to help you find another coach.
Right.
Just, this is why we do this. So,
right. All right. Well, happy Friday, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye.